Okay, so let's start. First of all, let me describe this feature that we want to implement. It's payment request API. This is actually a recommendation of standard for from W3C working group that works on web payments. And it provides a unified way how to implement checkout on the web for mobile and desktop applications. So thanks to Magento engineer Eugene Santiago, who prepared some stub implementations that allow us to see it in action in Magento 2 open source. We will now proceed to product page. Oh, sorry, it was add to the cart, wrong button. So Eugene implemented buy now buttons, which calls the payment request API embedded in browser. And once we call this functionality, our browser, in my case, is Google Chrome, that linked to my Google account, brings all the data available, such as my address. It's like not actually my address, but some fake data. But it provides us information with shipping address associated with my account, with my Google account, my payment methods such as test credit card, and my phone number and my email. So the huge benefit of this feature is that your customer should not be registered in your shop to have automatically fill all those data. Once the customer place any order at any shop which supports payment request API, this data will be stored on his own device and then fill it during next checkouts in any shop. So it's simplified checkout process very much, and give a huge benefit in comparison to complete merchants with some marketplaces like Amazon that store all this data in their accounts. Eugene also prepared some information and general overview of how payment request API works. So I would like to ask him to describe the technical part of this feature. Eugene?
Yeah. Hi all. So the main idea is actually we have like 3 different parts. It's browser, for example, Google Chrome, which actually provides payment API request, some payment gateway, and actually the merchant. For example, merchant could be like somebody who uses Magento. So the merchant provide to payment request API all needed configuration, like supported payment methods, kind of a payment, for example, if payment token will be used or just credit card, and other needed stuff in initialization. After that, a customer clicks on the buy now button and customer can see the pop-up. So payment request API allows to choose, as Vladimir said, existing credit card or create new credit card, select needed credit card, and after that, click pay now, and browser returns the, if customer uses credit card, browser return all raw credit card data like credit card number, expiration date, CVV, and etc., or payment token, which now only supported by mobile devices. After that, we need to process this data like credit cards or payment token, send this data to the payment gateway, like a simple authorization of sale transaction. And after that, payment gateway sends this transaction to issuing bank processing this transaction and returns response to the payment gateway. Payment gateway again return the like simple authorization or sale response transaction. Magento analyzes it and decide if payment successful or it declined. After that, Magento just shows the confirmation page for the customer and the order is complete. So in general, this flow looks like the similar, the standard Magento checkout, but the main difference in that, like in this case, we don't have additional steps like in standard checkout, but we can buy the product on the product page without like different redirecting to the payment gateway, without filling credit card data on the payment form, etc. Just all will be rendered by the browser. So in general, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Eugene. The next point that we would like to highlight is what we actually want to implement and how what would be the responsibility of Magento core and particular Magento payment model that provide integration with some payment gateways such as Braintree or Adyen or some else payment gateway. So first of all, Magento would provide all the general data necessary to place order and create payment, such as order items, order totals, shipping options, and actually will invoke the payment request API dialog, payment request API pop-up. And the responsibility of payment gateway model would be to provide information about what actually payment method is supported and by this gateway, and at the same time by payment request API. So this data may be processed by payment request API and then pass it to the payment gateway. Once customer will fill all the necessary data and click the pay button, payment request API will process the information and return payment response object, which will be then processed by payment request API just to create real transaction. Payment gateway model will be required to provide some handler for this data. And if payment gateway model is says that payment is okay, then Magento will create order and process all necessary data to like inventory deduction and so on. Like I said, we plan to implement in Magento general framework that will allow to any payment gateway model to plug into this infrastructure and provide own payment method support through this alternative checkout flow.
And did you already say which core module is going to be responsible for the invocation of the payment request API?
Not. We don't have a list of models that will be compatible with payment request API yet. For what we know, the Braintree already support payment request API as well as Google Pay and Apple Pay. So this is a good candidate to have like ethanol implementation, like example of such integration. But we are open to communicate on any model. Such I know that Adyen also has Magento 2 module and also support Google Pay and Apple Pay and payment request API. So our infrastructure should be should support all those models, and if during this project we'll be able to verify our implementation not only on single models but on several models, that would be only benefit for Magento and for the whole community. Another one important addition is that during initial research we found that simplest integration with using basic cars have drawback as payment response returns the raw car data. So if you will implement this in Magento, any merchant will be a target of PCI compliance attestation. That is not desirable behavior. So we decided to move forward with focus on payment methods that support payment tokenization, such as Google Pay and Apple Pay. And as those payment methods targeted to mobile devices, we decided to start with a Buy Now button on the product page, as most orders on mobile devices contains mostly single products, so this is more straightforward and more usable solution. So okay, now let me share the structure of the project and what resources we have. Inside the GitHub Magento organization, we created payment improvements GitHub repository, which now contains payment request API branch, and this branch set up to be default, as we would like to concentrate on this project. Among other activities on payment improvements, this is code on this inside this repo and inside this branch. This is actually a clone of Magento 2.3 develop branch. So you may install it locally, as you always install Magento from the Git repository. We have here a modified README file with links to most valuable resources dedicated to this project. So we have a link to our our Agile board with issues that I will describe briefly next. And we have payment improvements channel inside Magento Community Engineering Slack that you may join and start more actively discuss this project. And if you want to participate, just sharing your thoughts, asking some advice, and so on. Regarding how this project will be released, we don't have a final decision yet, as we now start only developing prototype. But initial plan is that we will have separate model Magento payment request API, and we'll try to concentrate all the code inside this model. And all improvements that we will need to do inside all the rest of Magento open source core, we will deliver to the main line, to the Magento 2 repository as soon as they will be implemented, and as soon as we will have green builds with those changes. So all the documentation regarding this project will be available at GitHub wiki pages of this repository. So it now contains some useful links to the payment request API demo page, official documentation, and documentation provided by Google. First one contains just like standard, and Google provide a lot of useful information and explanation of the document. And one of the Google developer have a series of blog posts dedicated to payment request API, which covers a lot of details. So it's good reading to start and have a good knowledge about this standard and this feature. And we have a document with general overview that we already saw today, created by Eugene Santiago. So we are going to start adding more documents in the future, and we'll be thankful if you will join this work. And we encourage all of you to not only work locally or in your private forks of Magento on this feature, but start sharing your code as soon as possible. So we're asking you to, if you start working on some issue, on some task on this project, create feature branches inside the payment improvements repository, just to share your work as soon as possible, just to have more possibilities to collaboration and communication. Everyone who would like to participate in this project should be able to, should have right permission to payment improvements repository. So if you would like to join, just ping me in Magento Community Engineering Slack, or by sending me email to my email address, magento.com, and I will provide you all necessary permission so you'll be able to push your branches and create issues in this repository, and assign issues to yourself, and so on. Now let's move to our Agile board, that contains initial set of issues that we need to resolve to have working prototype. So the first issue is describing everything that developer need to set up locally to start on the project. This is related to some specific requirement of payment request API, as it works only in secure environment. I placed already here some useful links, but I will transform them to documentation on the wiki page. But for now, who would like to join the project as early as possible, I placed the link to blog post which describes how to generate and configure trusted certificate to have fully valid, secure environment for your local development. Like you see that on my development, I have HTTPS enabled, and my browser recognizes this certificate as trusted, so payment request API available. So the other task is to transform the code that Eugene already implemented in like very first brief prototype in stub, but do it in more optimal way. So the next few tasks would be add buy now button to the layout on the product page, create JavaScript factory to create payment request object. Then the next task is to combine all together, make that buy now button will invoke the logic and will create the payment request object and will invoke interaction with the customer. The next task is creating service that will be asking all available payment methods integration, what methods may be used to, what methods may be used with payment request API, This task is pretty big and requires a lot of investigation and documentation, as we actually need to describe how payment methods would register their payment methods and would register their handlers of payment response. So the next task is payment details builder and builder of provider of shipping options that may be used by customer, handling of shipping address change and shipping options change, and so and several other tasks to cover all the features that payment request API has. So this is like a task market used to do and have almost clear success criteria, and this task may be taken in work, I believe, just as they have clear definition what should be implemented. Another kind of very important task and areas where we need really need help is investigation how we may proceed with local development, with Apple Pay, with Google Pay, as this integration requires some knowledge of mobile development, how to debug on remote devices and so on. So not all the Magento developers have this knowledge, and will be very appreciated if someone with knowledge of Android and iOS development will join the project and describe how to set up local environment to enable local development. Another one very interesting research that we need to proceed is investigation how we may implement basic cards usage without requirement to have Magento instance big PCI compliant to avoid requirement to proceed with PCI compliance attestation. This is very first set of tasks that we need to have like minimum viable project. We have another set of features that is market nice to have that improves integration with another part of Magento and provide more usable customization points. So if you would like to participate and have ideas how to implement this task, it will be also very nice if you will join and help. Time is almost end, and this is everything that I would like to share with you. Just as a reminder, our core resource is Magento Payment Improvements GitHub repository, which contains in README file links to all main resources of the project, such as Agile board, Slack for a channel for communication. And if you're just interested to participate in this project, just ping me so I will provide you more information and provide all necessary permissions to work on and communicate on the project effectively. So thank you for your attention. I will be glad if you have some questions regarding the project. Okay, so thank you for your attention. Thank you for your time. We'll hope that you will join the Slack channel and we will start communicate offline. Thank you one more time. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.